Philosophy and attitude determines activity. Activity is what you do. Key phrase, success is a doing. You actually now have to do it. It seems as though God has designed that the major part of the value of our life is left to our own mental genius. You've got to decide what you want to become. Then you simply have to go do it, engaging in the disciplines. Now, the activity part is so important. How hard should you work when you get ready to labor? When you get ready to try to be successful in the marketplace? How many days should you spend? How hard should you work? Well, let me give you an Old Testament phrase to consider. It says, 6 days activity, 1 day rest. Now that's called a philosophy on activity. Right? What should be the ratio of rest to activity? Old Testament suggests 6:1. Now I know that goes back a long ways. Some people said, no, 6:1's old-fashioned. 5:2 is better. Well, you've got to take a look at 5:2 and see if it's okay. You don't just want to buy somebody's philosophy without seeing if it leads to fortune, and if it leads to unique things, wonderful, it's probably good. But you have to check out if 5:2 is okay. Would 4:3 be better? I don't know. You got to check everything. I do know this, good phrase, don't rest too long. I got a good point for you. Make rest a necessity, not an objective. The objective of life is not to rest. The objective of life is to accomplish, to growth, full accomplishment, test the outer limits of your abilities. That's what life is all about. See what all you can do. That's what life is all about. See what you can do with the seasons and the soil and the seed. See what you can do with your brain. See what you can do with your talent and your gifts and your skills. That's what life's all about. See what you can do. Now, we need rest, but you must make rest a necessity, not an objective. If you make it an objective, you start falling into what we call the average syndrome, right? People who live mediocre lives are always looking forward to getting off. Successful people are always looking forward to getting on. Successful people don't want off, they want on. They want to get on with the job. They rest only enough to gather strength. So consider that in your argument, in your debate on how hard should you work. Let me give you another Bible philosophy. My parents made sure I was a pretty good scholar by the time I was 18. And I'm an amateur on the Bible. Here's another good philosophy. Whatever your hands currently find to do, do it with all your might. Whatever you're doing, do it with all your might. We call that philosophy on activity. How hard should you work? As hard as you can in the time allotted to labor. In leadership, management lectures we teach, when you work, work. When you play, play. Don't play at work. And don't work at play. Right? Make best use of your time. When you're working, pour it on. And when you're playing, have a good time. But don't play at work. Okay? So, activity, very important piece in this whole life puzzle in working. So, you've got to test how hard you can work. Part of it is physical, your own physical limitation. Some people can take 14 hours, no problem. Some people 10 stretches pretty much their physical limitation. So everybody has to sort of decide how hard you can work, how much time you can put in. When you come to university, right, you got to sort of find out how much workload you can handle, how many classes can you go through, how much can you unravel, how many study hours do you need, how much effort have you got, when are you going to run out of gas, right, and you need to replenish the supply. So we all have to study our own activity habits. But let me give you what I think is the best philosophy. It is simply do the best you can. In activity, we call it doing your best. A man asked me one time, he said, I'm making about $50,000 a year, isn't that enough? What would you tell somebody? A businessman said to me. He said, my kids aren't starving, and he said, I got my bills paid, and he said, we're doing pretty good, and I'm making about $50,000 a year. Isn't that enough? He asked me, what do you suppose I told him? I said, yes, it's enough if it's the best you can do. We don't call an amount enough. We call your best enough. I said, if you're capable of making $500,000 a year and you make $50,000 a year, we call you loser. And we don't call you loser because of the difference between 50,000 and $500,000. We call you loser because you're not doing your best. If you do your best and you make 10,000 a year, that's enough. If you do your best and you make $1 million a year, that's enough. Enough is not the difference between 10,000 and 1,000,000. Enough is simply doing the best you can. So that's the key to the good life. When the day is finished, if you say, did I do my best? And if I'm not doing my best, why not? Have I got some errors in my philosophy that says, hey, half effort's okay, just slide by, ho-hum it, cross your fingers and everything will work out, hopefully. Say, no, I don't want to take those kind of chances. I don't want to drift, okay? So activity. Just put a big question mark on activity and say, here's a major piece of life to keep checking.